Hi there, SKIDDY and STADE. Welcome to Open Door. Today we're going to interview Tulane graduate Alison Brod of Alison Brod PR. Talking about somebody who came to New York and really made it, Alison's created one of the most successful PR firms on the street today. She's an incredibly dynamic lady. Let's go see what she's up to. I'm here today with Alison Brod, President, CEO, and founder of Alison Brod PR. Alison, cannot thank you enough for having me over today. Really, really appreciate it. Why don't we begin by talking a little bit about your educational background and start from there.
I got to high school, and it was a brand new high school called Spanish River High School, and it was a mixture of southern surfer dude guys from Boca Raton and Palm Beach and northerners, and it was a really great mix. It was a really wonderful high school, and it was terrific being a part of something brand new. And then I went to college in New Orleans, to Tulane, and when I graduated, it was 1991, and it was the Gulf War. And I gave myself a 30-day round-trip ticket to come to New York City to make it big, or I was going home after 30 days if I couldn't find a job, an apartment, or roommate. So 4 days later, I met a man who asked me out on a date. And he took me to a black tie benefit. He was working in finance at the time. At this benefit, I saw this woman was there. And I did a shot of bourbon, which is what I've been drinking at Tulane, got up the courage and went up to her and said, "I'll do anything. I really want to work for you." And at 8:30 the next morning, she called and she said, "Okay, I don't know how you got to this event, but you start Monday." And I said, "What are the hours?" She said, "There are no hours. Come in at 8:30. I'll tell you when you could leave every day." And that was working for a big fashion PR firm in the early 90s.
Got ya. And then, okay, so you went and you did that. Did you ever think when you were a kid that you were going to be doing what you are today?
I don't think back when I was growing up people even knew what public relations was. Now, women, we get enormous amounts of people who study it in college. Nobody really knew what PR was. Like, there weren't the type of agencies that we have now today. So I think I remember being in 4th grade or 3rd grade and constantly having anxiety attacks about what I was going to do when I grew up. I always was concerned about what my future was going to be, even when I was 8 years old.
Right.
So a lot of people, I would say, my generation, they fell into PR. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a newspaper writer or a copywriter on a news desk. And at the time, in 91, the publishing jobs were paying $14,000 and PR was paying $18,000. And in hindsight, it really is the best of everything, because you get to write, you get to interact with people, you get to do multiple projects. Where at a lot of ad agencies or big companies, you work on one account. If you work at an agency, there are multiple disciplines, and you can see a project from start to finish. So it ended up being pretty terrific.
Got ya. I got ya. What, right now, obviously you've been incredibly successful. With all success, there are hurdles, there are challenges. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced in your career?
People always ask me about the risks that I've had to take in business. And to be very honest with you, I really didn't take too many risks. I believe that sometimes men, and this might be too cliche, take giant office spaces and they think really, really big. And women are sometimes the opposite. I kept taking spaces that were too small because I never thought I was going to be able to fill the space. So I've been in 5 offices since I've had the business, because we keep growing. So I think I've tended to be very cautious. I think that I had a lucky break. I met a man in an elevator. I didn't say one day, I'm going to start my own PR agency.
Right.
I met a man in an elevator, and I was eavesdropping, and he was talking to somebody else in the elevator about a fragrance launch. And I looked over and I said, "Oh, I'm in PR, here are some of the brands that I do." And we exchanged cards. Later he called and he said, "Would you like to meet?" And normally I would have brought him to the agency that I was working with, but I said, "You know what? I might be looking for a change. Would you want to just meet me for a drink?" And he said, "Listen, I don't care. I just need PR. I'll meet you wherever you want." And after 2 hours of us meeting, he said, "If you want to start your own business, I'll be your first client." And it was the relaunch of the Burberry brand on the fragrance side and a lot of other top fragrance clients. And the deal was that he paid for my office, an assistant. I had a $25,000 clothing allowance in 1995. I just couldn't take on any other brands that weren't competitive. People don't have to be that strategic. If you find something that you like to do and you work really, really hard, you take every opportunity, you go to every event, you don't leave an event without meeting somebody new, things will just come to you and your path will be guided.
In terms of the brands that you represent, who are some of the brands?
You conflict out. So when we started with beauty and fashion, there are only so many accounts you can take before they start to knock into each other. So now we're really broad. We are L'Oreal's agency, from L'Oreal to Mercedes to Burger King. We represent a lot of beauty and fashion. We work with Drew Barrymore. We work with, I'm trying to think, Urban Decay makeup. We work with New York Fashion Week. So it's a really broad mix of lifestyle, fashion, beauty, celebrity, entertainment, and business.
Okay.
And tech.
Got it. So let me ask you this. If you were talking to Alison Brod right now, she's still in high school, and you were to say, Alison, you know what, if you're going to get into the PR space, this is what you need to do to be successful. What advice would you give her?
What people don't do today is read. Read everything that you possibly can. Be prepared. Being prepared is it's so easy to get ahead because so many other people don't really read. Walk into every meeting researching. I mean, all you have to do is a Google search these days. So that's the first thing, I think. Number one, go out, take every opportunity. I'm always shocked when I invite young women to events in the office and they say they're too busy or they'd rather go to the gym. Every single opportunity you have to take. And then it makes it easier. My goal was to have every single person that I needed to get to a phone call away. And that's really what it's about. It's about accumulating people who can connect you to other people.
Sure, without a doubt. Where do you see, I mean, obviously you've had great success and you sort of chip at it one day at a time, it sounds like, but where do you see your company 5 or 10 years out, number one, and number two, where do you see the industry going?
Right. So what's happening now is PR used to be this very straightforward kind of discipline. There were magazines, there were TV, there was radio. The idea was to get your products, get your clients' products onto these onto these venues, onto these media outlets. Now, everything is combined. So what happens is the news happens so fast that you're knocking out multiple disciplines at one time. So we are now marketing. Guerrilla marketing is a huge part of it. And what guerrilla marketing is, it's grassroots. It's sampling. It's not just, people aren't reading. So I used to say once Twitter came along, and I'm a huge fan of Twitter, oh my gosh, no one's going to read anymore. It's only, people are whittling everything down to 140 characters. Well, then Instagram came along, and now there are no characters, it's just photos.
Right.
So we have to be really clever, and even when we hire people, you've got to be good at everything now. So you have to have a sense of aesthetic, a visual aesthetic, as well as writing and being quick. I mean, I would say the biggest challenge right now, we sit in multiple brainstorms every single day, is what are you going to do to get attention? And then you can get a lot of PR now, but it doesn't necessarily drive sales anymore. So if I were to say the one biggest challenge that we have now is people's eyeballs and ears are everywhere. Before, you would get your client on Oprah, and it was a home run. It was a sale because 12 million people were watching that. Well, now even the biggest TV shows, you have a fraction of those eyeballs because they're all on their phones. So that really is the biggest challenge. Clients want sales. They don't just want awareness.
Got you. So Alison, I called you before coming over, and I asked you what you would tell the class of 2014 at Tulane. What sort of advice would you give those guys?
There's 7 basic things that I've learned. Number 1, dress up. Number 2, follow up. Number 3, read up. Number 4, always act like you're on the up and up. Number 5, clean up. Number 6, man up. And number 7, sometimes just shut up and listen.
I think those, and that's it. That's great. That's all you need to do in like 15 seconds.
Those are my 7 basic things. So there's one other quote, and it's from a motivational speaker. And I don't usually follow motivational speakers, but his name is Zig Ziglar. And so here's the one main tip that I would give, or the one main thing that I've learned. You get what you want by giving others what they want. So in PR or in any career, it's a gigantic chess game, right? You want to be a good person, yes, but you also need to figure out how to get what you want. And sometimes it's by being strategic. Give people what they need, and you'll get what you need back from them.
Got you. Listen, again, I'm here with Alison Brod, President, CEO, founder of Alison Brod PR. You've done an amazing job. You've created an amazing firm. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, SKIDDY.